So we can go ahead and get started. And we do have a pretty full agenda that we want to get through today. So I want to say welcome to new faces and new names on the call. In the interest of making sure you know who we are, we're going to do some introductions. My name is Nichelle Whitney. I am the chair of this amazing commission. I have the pleasure of working with all of these fine individuals in our community. Outside of my commission hat, I am a senior assistant director in admissions for Indiana University. I serve as a fellow on the board of directors for Community Foundation, Bloomington and Monroe County. And I also own a consulting business here called The Garden, which specializes in diversity and inclusion training. So I am super excited to be here. This is my third year with the Women's Commission. And so I'm so honored to continue doing this work. I am going to pop over to my amazing vice chair, the one who keeps us all on the straight and narrow and make sure we don't get too crazy, Liz Feidel.
Thanks, Nichelle. I'm Liz Feidel. I'm the current AFL-CIO Community Services Liaison with United Way Monroe County, and I might as well just say it up front, I'll be retiring on May 31st. So I'm excited about that, but I won't be able, I think, to continue in this role, which is very sad for me, and I hope, you know, that it will continue. It's in really good hands. I feel really good about where it's at. So I want to say that I'll be transitioning out after the May meeting. So my husband, some of you may or may not know, my husband has Parkinson's. We're building a new house. We'll be moving. And the Parkinson's is just not cooperating. And so my needs are needed elsewhere. My work is. So I've enjoyed this immensely, and I'll say goodbye in May.
Okay, well, Liz, next time lead with that before I have a party on cam and then you be like, I'm rolling out. But thank you for your amazing time. We'll celebrate with you in May. Congratulations on retirement, and we send well wishes for your husband. You want to popcorn to another commissioner?
Sure. How about, let's see, I can't see them all here. I got to expand here, see who else is here. How about Jessica? I see Jessica next.
Hi, are we giving updates or are we just saying hi?
Introductions, just saying hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica. Oh, introductions, great. I'm Jessica. I'm on the Women's Commission, Jessica McClellan, and I work for Monroe County Government. I'm the county treasurer, and I've been on the commission for 2 years, I think, and I'm happy to see you all here. And we do great work.
Someone else. Pass it to someone else, Jessica.
Let's say hi to Rhema.
Hey, this is fun. I haven't done popcorn since grade school. I'm Rhema Payne. I am a newly appointed commissioner here. Very excited. I am a licensed mental health counselor in private practice. I'm also a doctoral candidate, completing dissertation currently, and a 2020 Minority Fellowship Scholar with the National Board of Certified Counselors. And I think that's about all that I'm doing right now. So happy to be here. I will popcorn to Becky.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky. Well, my name is Rebecca Odoiko. I'm an engineer at NSWC Crane. So I've been there for 3 years. And I also serve on the Black in Government organization there as the treasurer currently. And I'm also, like Rhema, a new appointed commissioner, so I'm excited to see what I can do and also be a part of this. I'm really excited about it too. Yeah, I think, and also a master's student at University of Southern Indiana, just started out. So looking forward to working with everybody.
And Becky picked someone to pass to.
Sorry, I'm trying to find who. Her name is Nicole.
Hey everybody, my name is Nicole Bennett. I am the Bloomington Commission on the Status of Women's Liaison to the Monroe County Women's Commission. I am a PhD student, currently studying data capitalism and exploitation, and I am excited to be here with you all. Let's see, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. So glad to have you join us today. My name is Michelle Bartley Taylor, and I am a commissioner on the Monroe County Women's Commission. I think 1.5 to 2 years now, so it's been a bit. I also serve as the Senior Associate Director at the Center of Excellence for Women and Technology at Indiana University. So glad you could join us today. Let's see. I think we may have all commissioners. Is that right, Nichelle?
Did we get Mim? Mim, did you go?
Oh,
I think Mim is our last one.
okay. Didn't see her on the, oh, there you are, Mim. Let me pass it to you.
Thanks. My name is Mim Northcutt Vomer. I've lived in Bloomington for 7 years now. I'm an associate professor of criminal justice at IU. I serve on the Monroe County Community Corrections Advisory Board. And at the university, I'm on the Bloomington Faculty Council and the College Policy Committee. So I go to a lot of committee meetings. And I've only been the commissioner for like a month, so I'm brand new.
Thank you,
Oh,
Mim.
and do you want me to pass it to someone else, or do you?
I think that covers all of the
Okay.
commissioners. We do have some guests on today's call, and we're going to get to hear from them in a few moments. So I wanted them to know who the commissioners are on the call and how we're here to support. So a little bit about the Women's Commission. If you saw the flyers circulating on social media, this is just a recap. So last year we were able to host a virtual eating simulation in partnership with the Banneker Community Center. We were awarded a grant from the Indiana State Department of Health in order to pull this off. And so we try to do a bunch of different types of things, really have a passion as a commission, I would say, for focusing in on equity and inclusion. And that's part of the reason why we're having today's MoCo WOCO warm-up, which, by the way, I've been in meetings all morning, so I don't have my cup of tea, but if you see me slip off camera and come back with it, just know that's why, okay? Something else that we did, we co-sponsored a number of events last year. So we were partnered with the League of Women Voters to do a voter registration webinar. It was hosted by our lovely chair of the Monroe County Democratic Party. It was a nonpartisan event, but we are so thankful that Jennifer Crossley was able to moderate and facilitate that with us. We also co-sponsored a film screening with the Center of Excellence for Women in Technology. It was, remind me of the name of the movie, Michelle, was it Nevertheless?
It was Nevertheless, about sexual harassment in the workplace.
Yes, very powerful movie, had a very strong attendance. We were honored to be able to support that group. We also, as a commission, advocated for lighting the county courthouse in purple and gold in honor of Women's Equality Day. We did create and host a 26-day social justice campaign that promoted unity and inspired change in Monroe County, but it was also a special honor to Breonna Taylor. And then we have facilitated yet again as an after-school program during COVID, 5 days a week, which was kind of insane, but we were able to pull off Girls Coding Camp, formerly known as Girls Coding Week. And we were able to also receive a grant from Verizon in the amount of $50,000. We were able to partner with some amazing partners. Shout out to Ivy Tech that provided instructors, and a lot of logistical lift for this, but also the Center of Excellence for Women in Technology, Girl Scouts of Central Indiana. And I think that's everyone. If I missed you, I apologize. But again, a great partnership. So we are a commission of partnerships. We believe that we are stronger when we work with others. And that's why we're having today's event. Because the one thing that has been coming up in our meetings is that we feel like we know some of the concerns, like we have a good ear to the ground, but what better way to meet the needs of people by hearing from people what the concerns are. So if you register for this event, then you should have received the link that asked you to share what's one of the primary concerns that we have as women in Monroe County. So some of the data that we pulled on the next slides are feedback from that survey. But I want to invite everyone who's on the call, whether you're a commissioner or not, I want you to be a part of, one second, I got kids in the background that I'm about to yell at. I didn't have to, yeah, I just did the stairs. See that? We invite you to be a part of today's conversation. Chime in, give us feedback, challenge ideas. We're going to do it respectfully and obviously with integrity, but this is your space. Today, we are holding space for the community to be able to tell us what are the concerns, what are the needs, what are we hearing, right? And so as we get to each of these topics, I'll kind of facilitate by just taking us through the wheels, but I want anyone and everyone to jump in either on like live, like virtually, like or vocally, right? You can jump on audio or you can chime in the chat and we'll make sure to monitor those questions. So today's meeting is about you all and we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So some of our key areas that were mentioned in feedback were affordable housing, safety and security, and quite frankly, safety and security had a lot of people mention that. STEM opportunities for women and faith. So the way that I just want to do this, we're just going to pick one portion of the bubble and we're going to jump in. Does anyone feel passionate about a particular bubble right now, or do we want to just kind of start with affordable housing?
Yeah, let's start on the top.
Okay, go for it. So thoughts on affordable housing. You can share your personal experience. You can share experiences that you have or knowledge that you have from a professional role, anything that if you can say like, yes, I agree with this. No, I don't agree with this. At this point, it's just open dialogue for our group. What are our thoughts on affordable housing? And kind of more particularly, how does this impact women in the county? Commissioners, this is also a conversation for us to have as well. So we have community members on the call, but commissioners feel free to also be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, I'd really like to hear from our guests. I mean, it's a real treat to have guests here today with us. And I think it would be really wonderful if whatever drew them to this meeting, if it was, what the topics we'll be talking about or whatever, would be really good to hear from those that are attending maybe for the first time or returning or whatever. I just think it's really good for us to hear from others besides ourselves. We can talk ourselves to death, but learning what it is others have to say is really important.
I agree, Liz.
Well, I can introduce myself. I'm a guest. I was a student at Indiana University many years ago and then moved away to Boston with my family, my husband and my daughter. And now we are in the midst of the pandemic returning to Bloomington. We've moved here and we're staying here. It's official, but I'm still working in Boston actually in the nonprofit world there. And so I'm interested in hearing what's going on in this community as I've been away for more than a decade. The work that I do in Boston is I'm an architectural designer, and I work for a nonprofit that provides training opportunities for young people who are interested in construction and related fields. And so we've been doing a lot of work trying to get more young women into our program and more young women into the construction industry and related and architecture. And one of the projects I'm working on right now actually is in collaboration with the Girl Scouts of Eastern Massachusetts and Suffolk Construction to implement a Construction 101 curriculum. And after we pilot that in the Boston area, they're going to expand that nationwide. So maybe one day you'll see that here in Indiana. And maybe I'll be, helping to lead that. So I'm really interested in a couple of these topics, particularly affordable housing, because the young people who we train in construction, we provide actually hands-on training on affordable housing sites. So we have this kind of multifaceted mission. The organization I work for, by the way, is called Youth Build Boston. And Youth Build is a nationwide, they have like an umbrella, Youth Build USA, and Youth Build Boston is the primary New England chapter for them. But so our students are working on affordable housing sites. And obviously I'm also really interested in the STEM opportunities topic. But all of these are interesting, and I'm excited to learn more about what's going on in this community here and kind of like make my transition over to Bloomington professionally, slowly, but one day. So thanks for welcoming me.
I'm happy as the AFL-CIO Community Services Liaison. I'm really happy to hear you say that you're working on this. This really makes me smile. You know, the trades, the building trades and all those fields are sorely lacking women in participation. And I know that they do have some programs, but to hear about something like this is just refreshing. And I don't know that there is anything here just like that right now. So I don't know, you said it's a nationwide program. That excites me. So maybe, are you interested in maybe launching something like that here when you come eventually, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely really interested in starting my own nonprofit. My mom runs a nonprofit in Columbus, Indiana called Advocates for Children. So it's like, it's in my blood. I feel like it's kind of my destiny, but I understand there are a lot of nonprofits here already. So I'm just kind of like getting the lay of the land and getting myself out there and learning what's going on in the community and seeing if there's like a place for me to fit in already, or you know, if there's nothing like that already, then yeah, it's definitely, you know, a strong interest of mine and something that I would be interested in starting.
Certainly, I'm not aware of anything specifically like that here right now, but you know, certainly we have the O'Neill School of Public Affairs, right? And School of Public Environmental Affairs. There's a woman there, faculty woman. I think she's retired, but she's still active. Kirsten Gronberg, Gronbjerg. And she is the guru on nonprofits. She will know everything about the nonprofits. So I would suggest you might look at the SPIA website and see if you can find her name and her contact information there, and connect yourself with Kirsten and tell her I sent you. She knows me very well.
Great, thank you so much.
Yes.
As we all can see, Liz is a well of knowledge and has been an asset to the commission. And so, Christine, I don't want to keep you on the spot about affordable housing, but I do want to open, I mean, you bring up a good point. You're placing people in a program to specifically work on affordable housing sites and units. I would like to hear from other people on the call, though, specifically about affordable housing, our thoughts, our experiences with it, or challenges that we're hearing from the community. Go ahead, Jessica.
I attended the Democratic Women's Caucus meeting the first Friday of the month this month, and they had there was a session about how evictions work. And the really interesting thing about that for me that I learned was that Indiana Legal Services provides sort of a wraparound support for people who are going through evictions. So people who are in crisis and need housing. And there are a lot of services, there's a lot of care and time given to people who need to figure out what they're going to do with themselves, you know, after they're evicted. And so what I think could be a focus for us as a group is to learn more about how to find affordable housing, where is affordable housing, what resources people can go to across people who are in all over the spectrum. I mean, there are people who are being evicted, who are in crisis, but then there are people who have jobs and kids and relative stability who also need affordable housing. And I think that we could start to do a lot of good with the community if we learn those things. Like I have, like most of us probably in Bloomington, I have also experienced like a lot of financial and emotional stress trying to find affordable housing. And I know, we all know it's a huge deal, but I think we need to educate ourselves about, we know what it is, but what are the resources and how can we help other people who don't have the privilege that we have to have this group of smart and wonderful women who are willing to go out and figure it out and help other people.
Very good, Jessica. Thank you for sharing that.
Hi, I'd like to chime in as well, based on Jessica's points. I'm Jamari. I'm a first-year graduate student here at Indiana University. To be honest, I didn't provide any feedback because I just moved here about a little over a month ago, but affordable housing was a huge challenge for me as a student. I live 4 hours away, and because of I lived 4 hours away, and because of the pandemic, I wasn't granted the opportunity to visit Bloomington and to know what areas were safe because I live by myself. And also as a woman of color, I was like, I need to be sure that I'm in an area that's safe. And since my stipend is very restricted, I'm like, okay, so how can I find an apartment that I can afford to live on my own? It's difficult to find roommates right now. That's in an area that's safe and also in an area that's completely new to me. And so I think I found a place, again, it's still very foreign to me because I just got here. But a lot of my colleagues have told me that I'm really far, which is daunting because I have to rely on a lot of them for support and for safety because my family is far away. And it's not as stressful, but then I've been thinking like, okay, if something happens to me, I guess I'm considered far away from everyone. I can afford where I'm at, but not to like segue into the next point of safety and security, there is like this issue of like, okay, I have a place that I can afford. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what my neighbor's doing. But because of it took months. I've been looking for housing here for about a year, and I recently moved. But because I didn't have the resources that could help me find an area that was kind of close to my colleagues, I guess there's an enclave where a lot of graduate students live. Apparently it's not on the west side. I guess I needed to avoid that. The reasons why haven't been revealed. But because I found it an affordable area, I'm kind of, I put myself in jeopardy a bit because it's away from the people who could support me if I needed support. So having that resource, thinking back on Jessica's points, would have been extremely invaluable as a young woman coming to a completely new place.
Thank you for that, J. Mari. Justice, I see you're off mute as well.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with what you shared, J. Mari, so I appreciate your thoughts and even kind of going back to some of what Jessica brought up and ways that it reminds me of some of the experience that I've had. So my name is Justice. I've lived in Bloomington now for about 8 years, and I recognize that in thinking about this topic specifically, affordable housing, throughout undergrad and grad school was very privileged to not have to think about that. I lived on campus. I had an assistantship that actually through RPS, I was able to, with my husband, we lived on campus, and, it just wasn't something that fortunately we had to think about. And so within the last 2 years, having moved off of campus and, looking around town, kind of that same question and concern of what J. Mari shared with looking for affordable housing. I love that you brought up safety and security, because I think that there are certainly ways that these themes intersect. And I think for me, and in my experience of having found where we live now, we're in a townhome on the west side. I've in some ways been discouraged with experiences that we've had, feeling like, and I'll share about a month ago, both of our cars were broken into. We've never had an experience like that before. It kind of shook me, just feeling like, who did this? Who in our community, or who, was it my neighbor? It just kind of, I think, since then has given me this alertness that I feel like I didn't have before, or felt like I didn't have to have. But just seeing or feeling that in living or finding affordable housing, it shouldn't mean that I'm having to sacrifice safety and security. So that's kind of a little bit of how I feel when it comes to this topic.
So I have something in addition, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we had the same problem too, because where I work at Crane, a lot of people, like young people, are coming in from out of state, right? And I lived in Indianapolis before moving to Bloomington because of the drive. But that was the main thing that really came up, people coming out of state, because the same concern, you don't know where to stay, where to live. And so all of us that came in, we kind of like started putting, okay, everybody bring your thoughts on, okay, houses, apartments, vacant people. So for new hires that are coming in, and if they have the question, we can have that resources to provide to them. So maybe if that's something that we are interested in, it could be like a good collaboration to work with the person that was in charge. I can maybe connect, yeah, and then go from there, because that really helped out a lot. We had a lot of people after like their summer interns, they didn't want to come back because they didn't know anything about Bloomington and things like that. So the resource, it actually helps for that transition. So maybe that's something we can take a look at.
I like that idea a lot, Becky. And I think that's something that we absolutely can collaborate with more people on. Like Jessica was just giving us a resource that supports families dealing with evictions, right? But even beyond that, more resources about where the affordable or where housing is in general, where the community's concentrated, and then being able to add a note about what's affordable. I have to shout out a group, Black and Bloom. It's an informal network of Black young professionals. Young's debatable based on who wants to define young, but professionals and graduate students who we kind of support each other. And one thing that constantly is happening is people are asking, where should we move to? Where do we live? And a lot of us choose to live in areas where our peers and colleagues can vouch for, right? Part of that is because of safety, but part of it goes back to Jay Mari's concern about like, am I far away from where I need to be, the places that I will need to go, or from people who will be able to support me. So I think that's absolutely something that the Women's Commission can look at doing, is crafting a list that gets published on our county page that is a living document that constantly is updated with not only like where to live, but maybe even price ranges, right? Like, is this what we would consider? And I think that's a whole nother conversation. What do we define as affordable, right? But then also on that housing resource, maybe even being able to list realtors or different people that can help you find like the locations that fit your budget, but that also are conducive to your needs. When we talk about being Black in Bloomington or in Monroe County in general, right, that brings up a whole nother set of needs. And so maybe that is also a cultural lens that we could add to this resource. We could continue to develop that, but I want to thank you all for chiming in on affordable housing. We can keep that going, but I also hear that we're talking about safety and security. So I want to bring that into the conversation as well, right? What are our thoughts about safety and security? You can feel free to share your own experiences or kind of share what you're hearing from the community. Thoughts on safety and security.
I spoke with Deborah Morrow about 2 weeks ago. She's the, believe the executive director of Middleway House. And she brought up, we were talking about where are the gaps in Bloomington and Monroe County. And she connected affordable housing with safety and security. Again, she said one of the #1 reasons that people go back to their abusers are because of the lack of affordable housing. And so I know that we're moving a little further away from affordable housing, but she said from what they've seen, especially throughout the pandemic, it's a huge safety concern where they see a lot of their clients returning. And the barriers that she saw for renting for her for the people who come through Middleway House were credit, because a lot of times when you're in an abusive relationship, sometimes your credit is purposefully tanked. How many evictions you've had on your record, you have to make a certain amount of money, and these are all barriers that people who have faced abuse and who are trying to flee their abuser face, specifically around safety and affordable housing.
Thank you, Nicole. Justice, I saw that you have popped off mute as well. Did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, for the feedback that I provided, I think that it was nearly all focused on this theme. And for me, I'm kind of flooded with memories of as a senior in high school, preparing to, leave my parents' home and move to another city and town. And I'm just from Indianapolis, so it wasn't too far of a move, but I think at that point and moment, it being emphasized how important it is to be alert and safety as a young woman, as a person of color. I've even just in the last 8 years of being here, have had colleagues, have had classmates that have passed away. Joseph Smedley, a case that Joseph, someone who I went to elementary school. So I think just through the years, seeing, violence in our city, seeing cases of what folks have encountered where a lot is still a mystery, it is what I think is kind of the source of some of the fear that I have in the lack of safety that I feel. Just those horror stories of, girls disappearing and being in a college town. I think the way that it was framed to me by my parents, and I don't know if this is good or bad, so not at all saying like, this was a great conversation, but just in being frank, us being in a college town and who that might attract, and, just young, vulnerable women and just the importance in you being alert. So I think just having those conversations time and time again, and, horrific events and tragedies would take place, and it just led to those conversations taking place again. But I think throughout the years, it's just something that has continued to be a concern and a thought in the back of my mind of, when I'm walking outside alone, paying attention and just being discouraged by that having to be a fear.
I just had another quick thought about safety and security and, listening to Justice talk about walking alone. I'm still going in the office 1 day a week this whole year. And it struck me yesterday, and I think it just got reinforced by what Justice said, with so many people remoting, not being out and about. I was just reflecting on how quiet and isolated the campus seemed. And not just the campus, but also the town. I saw one young woman walking by herself, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning, but there was not another soul around. And I was reflecting yesterday, not really knowing that we were having this conversation today about, during this past year, and hopefully we're going to begin to see things opening up, but how riskier and more threatening it seems right now when people aren't out and about. So I just was sort of reflecting on that and listening to what Justice just said. Occurred to me to raise it here.
I think that's a really good point. Obviously, as a criminal justice professor, safety is something I think about often. I used to be a runner, like I guess I'm still a runner, but I used to be an early morning runner in Bloomington. So I'd run at like 5:30 in the morning. And I stopped when about the time that women were being grabbed off the greenway and the different running pathways. And I got a dog, which criminal justice research shows that like whatever kind of dog you have, like if it's smaller, if it's big, it's a deterrent. And I found it to be really true. I don't think that people should have to buy a dog to feel safe or to be able to work out. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm saying is so many strange, weird, bizarre things happened before I was running with my dog. Like men would there was a lot of lone men walking the streets of Bloomington at 5 a.m. with I don't know where they were going. They weren't college age. They didn't appear. It was strange. And now when I run, people cross the street and sort of move out of my way and give me a buffer, which again, I'm not suggesting that I'm not trying to blame the victim here. And I'm not saying that the solution is to get women dogs at all. But what I am saying is that as a professor on campus, I occupy sort of a privileged position. So when I have to run to campus late at night, I bring my dog with me, even though dogs are not allowed on campus I've often thought about making it a rule that students could do the same, like that particularly female students should be able to have more safety measures in place, not just a van that will pick them up and drop them off if they travel at certain times of night, but like something different. And then just one final comment is, when a lot of women were being grabbed off the running trails, not a lot, there was like what, 4 or 5 who were successfully grabbed. And luckily, I don't think anyone was like killed, but not to reduce the trauma. But the comments that we got from like the sheriff's office and the city were appallingly out of touch. They were from men, and like men were suggesting that women should just run with guns. And if the women ran with guns, they would be safe. So there was a lot of victim blaming. So I'm not trying to dovetail that. I'm saying I've been there, I get it. And I think we could do a lot more as a community and as a commission to make it a safer and more secure place for women to move around.
I just want to follow up comment about that. You know, if we make safety and security better for all, women definitely, you know, if we make it better for women, it makes it better for all. I have 4 kids. More recently, I had a student who recently graduated, a male student, son of mine at IU, and he would often work late at night and then have to walk. He doesn't have a car, and he would walk quite a distance to his home, and it would often be 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And he would call me then. Now, you know, he would never say he was calling me because he wasn't feeling safe, but I know he was calling me because, you know, even for him, you know, a lone man walking, found streets, even on campus or close to campus, threatening to him. So, you know, what we do for women definitely will benefit all. And recognizing loud and clear, the threat is much higher for women. And I want to be clear that I'm not saying anything different there.
Thank you, Michelle. I feel the same way about having the responsibility of knowing that the security concern is heightened for women. But I do also want to give some, I mean, in our family, we've had a couple of instances where our college student, one, has had a racial slur written across his car while parked on campus. When we ask for camera footage of any sort, magically it's not available, right? And so my concern is, if you know that vehicles are parked in massive lots, you know, the students have to walk across these lots, sometimes late at night or very early in the morning. I mean, why aren't there any sort of cameras at all, even if it's just at major entrances, right? Like there was nothing. So we weren't able to get any information about that. And then also that same student, bless his heart, was at the Circle K. Is it Circle K? Whatever that gas station is on the corner of, I think, 3rd and Indiana, on the south side of campus, was getting gas late one night, maybe around 10 o'clock, and was charged by a white man that was yelling obscenities towards his car. And like, luckily, he jumped in the car and drove off, right? But I'm just thinking about the danger that posed for him. And then also how this being a student who came to Bloomington, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, loved IU, has now had these 2 very traumatic encounters, and that is shaping now his world, right? And so just wanting to also share that about safety and security. On a personal note, I was in the car with a friend, he's a guy, we were driving, I can't remember where, but we were coming through a neighborhood. There was a woman that was kind of running, like she wasn't on the sidewalk, but she wasn't blatantly in the street. She's kind of off a little bit to the side. And my friend thought it would be funny to slow down and like creep past her. He has tinted windows on his car. And I'm like, you think that's funny and a joke, but imagine like what that woman is going through in that moment, because she doesn't know what's going to happen to her, right? Like, and not saying that fear would be different if it was male or female, but in that moment, it was a woman. And we know that women have these heightened concerns and insecurities. And even then, I just kept thinking, I said to him, I said, what if there was a camera in this neighborhood that just watched you do that to that woman? I would hope that they would be able to pull your license plate and you'll be able to get in trouble. But we know that there's not, right? So even just thinking about what things can we set up on a practical level in different areas that could protect people from these types of things, and also the education around it, right? Like, that was dumb, okay? But at the end of the day, like, why did you do that? What did that stem from? You knew that the person was going to experience fear in that moment. Why did you think that was okay? So
I'd love to add a quick point, and let me know if I'm talking too much, but I love what you just touched on, Nichelle, and I'm very thankful that you were able to I don't want to say address that like in a way of you addressing them, but just raise awareness, like you in that moment. I think there was a need for that. It makes me think of how much of a need there is for awareness, I think, in this topic, and even just knowing like what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. I think it's such a, just when it comes to threat and even harassment, like sometimes some of those lighter things I think can get passed, or folks can feel like, no, it maybe isn't pleasant, but it's fine to do. And it can be a really uncomfortable experience. So I was at the dog park this week. I take my dog from time to time to Switchyard, and I don't know why I put myself under this like mental pressure, but it's really important to me when I'm at a dog park that I'm coming off as friendly. I feel like everyone there is just, becoming the best of friends and talking, but it's also COVID. So, I'm trying to keep my distance, but I kind of approach the group and, hello, hey, everyone. And I'm asked within about a minute by an older gentleman to pull my mask down. I do notice that none of the group there has a mask, and he just says, oh, I really want to see your face. Can you pull your mask down? And I've kind of been beating myself up over this just over the last week, kind of looking back like, why did I do that? But I just kind of slowly like pull my mask down in confusion of why I'm being asked to pull my mask down. And he says, oh, just wanted to see your face. It's pretty. Sorry, I'm not trying to hit on you. But I think in that moment, and not to like walk you through all of what I was processing, but almost doing like mental cartwheels in my head of like, I didn't want to come off as this angry Black woman who's like, no, why? Or, just whatever that could have been led to. So I kind of felt this pressure of you want to be friendly, you want to be in the group, you want to whatever, like you were just asked to pull your mask down. That's what you're needing to do now. But I think there's just a conversation that needs to take place in all spaces of what's appropriate and what's not. And when it comes to threat or anything regarding safety and security, keeping in mind that even those things that might be seen as really small or minor, really causing a lot of stress for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make one quick comment that I think that as a commission, we need to be aware of, and, and I know many of us are, but I just still want to state it, that when government or any group of people wants to start talking about safety and security, a common response is going to be increasing police presence. And that can't be, I just want to make sure we're making that conversation much bigger, and that certainly wouldn't be the only option. And there's got to be a lot more other things besides that. I mean, when you talk about educating a community, there's certainly many of us who will right away recognize that that's not the best response to those issues. But there are a lot of people in the community who will feel like that is, in a probably a assuming positive intent in a good way, think that's the answer. And so I just, as we're talking about these things, I want to make sure that we're also being really creative about what avenues and what approaches can be taken to address those.
Yeah, Michelle, I think you put it in a very fluffy way, but I'll just blatantly say, like, police are not necessarily safety for all people, especially people of color. Okay, so when we talk about what are the solutions here, I agree with you, Michelle, that police are not always the go-to, because sometimes our police need to be policed, right? And we know that that doesn't always happen. So thank you for being really respectful and gentle with the approach. I'll just put myself out there and I'm like, listen, sometimes police are problematic. Not to say, well, I'm not even gonna add that caveat, you know what I'm saying? So there it is. Okay, other conversations around safety and security. I see, Christine, that you've come off mute, and Mim, I just saw a hand from you.
Yeah, I just wanted to also thank Michelle for bringing up that point. right after we had moved here, there was the incident. We live kind of out a ways, kind of out by Lake Monroe. And about a month after we moved here, there was the incident with Vox Booker at Lake Monroe. And I was like, like where we moved from the Boston area, we moved from a city called Malden, and it's like the number 3 like most diverse city in the whole United States. And diversity was a huge concern for us when we were moving back to the Midwest from the Boston area. And that's the major reason we chose Bloomington, because we thought that, of all the cities in Indiana, this is like the only one that we could move back to after having lived in the Boston area. And then this happened with Vox Booker. And I was like, what have we done? Like I was, it was a huge, I was kind of like regretting moving here for a minute. And so I think like when you talk about alternatives to calling the police, if something like that happens, maybe it would be helpful for newcomers to have a resource of like, I'm sure there are lists that exist of like ally organizations or something, but maybe like, when someone moves to Bloomington, they could receive a packet in the mail about like, here are all the community resources. And I don't know, that would have been helpful to me. I was like, yeah, because we live in a rural area, if there is some kind of incident, and I know that there were issues around like, because it was on state property, like the Lake Monroe police, it wasn't Bloomington police that responded and stuff, but I'm still just very confused about like, if there was an incident out here where I live, who am I supposed to call? So educating newcomers to the city of Bloomington, but also the more rural areas would be helpful too.
I like that idea, Christine. Mim, I want to pop to you, and then Rhema, I see that you're off mute as well. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Regina is off mute as well. But I do want to say this, Christine, I believe that is something that we can figure out how to make that happen, because I know every time I move, the freaking post office mails me 30,000 coupons to places I'm never going to go. Okay. Get it religiously. So I'm like, there's a way that we can figure out how to get some more critical resources into people's mailbox. So I like that idea a lot, Christine. Okay, Mim, Rhema, Regina.
I was just going to say that I think that there is a lot of room here where the commission could put pressure on the Monroe County Sheriff and Bloomington City Police and IU Police to put like, if there's particular places where cameras would be helpful. I know like there's that balance between like more cameras and more surveillance, but we could try to reach out and get information from people about these certain like places where cars are being broken into, or places where there seem to be a lot of incidents, or like certain restaurants. I know like there were people, there have been hate crimes, race-based hate crimes happening in certain restaurants. Like if it's helpful to have, the police do some community policing and talk to business owners, or if it's helpful to put up cameras, which I think is something we can talk about, whether it's helpful or more surveillance, right? That is how things get changed. So after some women were being targeted and attacked on running trails, additional cameras and additional policing went up on the Beeline Trail. So it is an area that we as a commission could probably have some results if we put resources into it. And I mean, obviously as a criminal justice professor who does surveys, like I'm just hearing a lot of like, oh, we should be gathering more information. Like I bet people are having similar situations. Like I suspect there's probably areas in town that are doing better than others, and we can identify some of those ways to improve situations in certain places.
Thank you, ma'am. Rhema and Regina.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to, I think, something you brought up, Nichelle, about your friend in the car, and then it kind of led to this need for awareness and education. So for me, I think through questions a lot of times. So the mention of allies and listing resources. I would love to see the commission link education with allies, because my first question as a Black woman is who's allies, who's defining that? So we can have this list based off of people's experiences, but it may not mean that they're an educated ally or a responsive, active ally. And so how do we create, what is that criteria? And then I would feel comfortable with us endorsing a list. Like we've been mentioning when people move here, hey, where are the places, where are the safe places? So I think it's important to always keep that in mind. And, and I know I don't represent every Black woman or, all these locations socially. But as we're creating these lists, I think it'd be great to have some kind of extension to kind of whether others just share their experiences, so we can really kind of create this comprehensive list and really put our stamp on something that we know it's an ally from multiple positive encounters, multiple positive experiences, and not just because they said they're an ally and they're nice, right? So I think that's going to be really critical if we do join for something like safety and security and these issues being brought up, that we kind of come up with our own criteria. And I get geeked and, excited about stuff because I'm like, because then our stamp is going to mean something, like the O on the, Oprah's book club. I'm like, I want it to mean something. If people say the Women's Commission has called them an ally and not just we're like handing it out, it's kind of like, no, they've either had some diversity inclusion training, they've kind of been vetted, so to speak, and that we trust to list them because these are very serious things that people are sharing and experiences. And I think a list of resources is great, but who are the resources showing up for consistently? And I think it's important that we get those stories before we kind of endorse anyone.
Very good point, Rhema.
This is Regina talking, and I'll put my video on for just a second. I'm a lot older than most of you, even Liz. And I've lived in Bloomington for most of my life. I wasn't born here, but I came as soon as I heard. When you talked about safety and security at first, I immediately thought of the 4 traffic incidences where people in Bloomington have been killed recently on our streets. One involving a city bus, a couple involving IU students, and one out near the mall. And that was my initial thought of this discussion of safety and security. But as we were talking and as you all began to tell your stories, I began to think of my own issues with security and safety. And I grew up in a time where women were, I also went to kind of like a convent school, and the nuns wouldn't let us go out in less than 2. We had to go out in groups of 3, not 2, but 3. And we also were shown how to carry our keys between our fingers when we were walking to the car at night or almost any time. In Bloomington, I have twice been at an ATM where a man was standing too close to me, either standing up behind me where I felt he could see me putting in my password or my whatever, or he was standing on the side of me where I thought he could still see what I was doing. And both times I turned around and I corrected that man, saying what I thought was probably too brusque, but I said, you need to stand over here and leave some space between you and the woman who's using this machine. So it brings me to what I'm saying is almost all the stories that we've just heard are about men not behaving appropriately towards women, whether it's calling you out, Mim, as you're running, or just asking someone to pull down your mat. I mean, that's just horrible. And so what can the commission do to cooperate or partner with people to talk about educating young men about women's safety? Not all young men have sisters that they're concerned about. Sometimes they don't even act that well to their girlfriends. So I see this as an educational opportunity around safety and security towards women and especially women of color about what we're comfortable with and what we're not comfortable with. Just to go back to housing for just a second, my thoughts there were, when we talk about affordable housing, when the city and the government talk about affordable housing, they talk about increasing the number of bedrooms available. I don't think of affordable housing for a family in terms of bedrooms. I think of it as a house with a yard that a kid can play in, and maybe even a swing set, someplace where they can nurture their family, but it's not necessarily in a place with a bunch of bedrooms. That to me is something entirely different. Yes, we do need affordable housing and it needs to be safe, and you live in communities because that community keeps you safe. But it's not all about affordable housing in Bloomington. To me, means something for those people who are making almost the lowest wage in our community to be able to, within their budget, afford something that they can buy, build equity in, and then go on to more and more. So those are my two observations, and thank you for allowing me to listen into this conversation. I also, like Nicole, I was the City of Bloomington liaison between the city's commission and the county's commission. So that's why Liz recognized me. She's an old friend, but thank you for letting me listen into the conversation, because it's really enlightening to me that some things are a little bit different and some things just stay the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. I want to thank everyone who has taken time to share and to give these amazing perspectives, because Regina, I had not heard this concept of affordable being defined as number of bedrooms, right? So that's informative to me. As you were talking though, and going back to Rhema's comment about how do we educate people, something that popped into my mind that the commission could do is a PSA or a commercial or a YouTube something, right? Where I saw Rhema mention that we could partner with some organizations. I'm going to put this group on the spot, not saying that they want to partner with us at all, but it's the first thing that popped into my mind. For example, the Commission on the Status of Black Males, they've been amazing partners in the community for some time, having an opportunity as a women's commission and a men's commission to partner to do a PSA around what men shouldn't do, or how men can check in with themselves about what am I doing? Am I hovering? Even if that's not my intention, what potential messages am I sending in this moment? When we talk about mansplaining on a bus or in an office, right? Or manspreading, like all of these things speak to safety and security for women, whether it's in the workplace or in the community. So a PSA could be a dope opportunity with a group. I said CSBM, they may be like, Nichelle, we're not fooling with this. So don't hold them to it. I'm just throwing that name out there as a group that is men that has been a good community partner. So good stuff. I have 3. I want to make sure that I'm capturing recommendations as we're moving forward. I've captured create a list of affordable housing resources with a couple different buckets attached to them. Mim, I saw the link, the county link that you posted on housing. So thank you for that. And then also creating educational materials to promote education for women. What is it that women can do, right? So like that, the encounter that Justice shared, like, should I have shown my face? Should I have not? If I did, what does that mean? Are the thoughts that I'm having okay, right? So even looping in this mental health aspect to what happens when you experience this type of fear or trauma. But then also here that there the newcomer resources. When people get here, how do we get them to the right place that is safe and that makes the most sense for them at the student level? So Jay Mari, thank you for sharing that, right? But then also at the family or professional level, where you live, where do you buy, where do your children go to school, what is affordable to you? And then also I'm hearing, oh, so that was the 3rd thing. So I heard 4 things. Then we could possibly do a PSA in partnership with another organization, and we can promote this in as many places as possible. I do want to make sure that we're up on 30 minutes. I am all for this being an amazing meeting. So if the commissioners are okay, I think we should continue this conversation with our MoCo WOCO warm-up. Are commissioners okay with that? Okay. So then we have 2 more things up on the screen. We have faith and STEM opportunities, but then there's another screen that had a few more things. So do we want to jump into faith and STEM opportunities, or do we want to roll to the next bucket of topics? I want to make sure that anyone who wants to speak to what's on the screen, they have the ability to.
Can I ask more about the faith opportunities? Can you elaborate on that? And I 100% am in agreement that we need more STEM opportunities.
So I am pulling this from what the responses were in the type form. There wasn't a lot of explanation around faith, but if anyone wants to speak to that, when they think about women and faith in this community, what do you think about? You can. I know for me, thinking about how women of non-Christian faiths are safe and represented or are valued in the community. One thing that is constantly going through my mind, I don't know why, but it just amazes me that during COVID, we got to the place of everyone being masked. And it was like standard practice. It was like, if I can't see your face, all I see is your eyes. Like, that's okay. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, right? But for religious groups that wear head coverings and face wraps, when you can only see their eyes, they're targeted and they're villainized and they're demonized, right? And it's like, how do we make a shift so quick as a nation to say, oh, being masked is fine, but had it been, what, a year and a half ago and a Black person walked into a bank with the mask on, now it's like guns are drawn, right? So that's one thing that I was thinking about. I know that that can attach to faith in a way that there are some faiths where they are more fully clothed or covered in the facial area. And how do we then, I just always think about that there are groups of people that were demonized for that being their practice, but then all of a sudden COVID happened and it was supposed to be completely normal and safe. And I remember having like this kind of out of body experience, like feeling really weird and even making some jokes like, wow, Black people can walk into buildings with masks now and be just fine. So that was my kind of take on faith. Does anyone else have any thoughts about faith?
Nichelle, were the comments more specific?
No, they were very general. Okay, maybe we could come back to that and keep that conversation rolling for community members. Just to show you all what's on the next slide. Living wages, pay equity, support and growth as professional women, and then equity and inclusion in general. Do we want to spend some time on this slide?
I'm interested if you have, again, additional information, what kind of comments were in the support and growth area? What kind of support, what kind of growth, what was meant there?
That there were 3 or so comments that specifically talked about being supported as a professional. So wanting to come into different leadership opportunities in the community. Are there, one person mentioned like cohort models that develop small business owners that are women, right? So they were looking primarily for resources, and we're citing that lack of resources for women to grow, to be supported and to grow professionally exist here. That was the general overview. Does anyone agree with that? Can anyone identify with that?
Does the mill have any resources targeted at women business owners or women entrepreneurs or anything?
Great question. I don't know.
The chamber might, I'm guessing.
Go ahead, Justice.
I was going to say, I could just add a point to that theme of feeling like, in my personal experience, I had a very hard time transitioning from being a graduate student to working full-time. I do love what I do. I'm working community engagement for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But feeling like as an IU student, I felt very supported. I felt like my own personal growth and development was a priority to every supervisor that I had while working at IU and being a graduate assistant, to where, boom, I'm kind of thrown into this world where my personal growth didn't feel like that was the company's. And again, no like shade to Make-A-Wish, love my job, but I think this could be an opportunity for the commission where if there are other women, young professionals who are kind of in that transition and feeling like some of the mentorship that they experienced as a student or just that support that they felt was really ongoing, recognizing that for a lot of us kind of going into our careers, maybe that's not something that's as central or focused. So feeling like there are still other opportunities for me to have that, I think would be really nice.
And just to elaborate on what Justice said, that I agree that kind of support is needed for young people. I think that it'd be nice to give that support to people like me who can give more support to employees in my office. Like, I would love to have some training, and I'm sure a lot of people in my organization would like some training on how to better support the younger people in our office, in their professional growth in Bloomington and just in their field and specifically. I would definitely like to get better at that.
One thought I had, I as we talk about this, I keep thinking about lean in circles. Lean in is an organization. If you're not aware, I can't give you a lot of details about it, but obviously supporting women professionally and otherwise. I can speak to my own experience moving to Bloomington not very many years ago. A woman of my age, I actually find it very difficult to get connected with other women in this community. It has felt very insular. A lot of people have very strong community connections already because they grew up here, or have been with IU for so long that they're very connected with their own groups. And I think that I'm probably not alone, that there's a lot of other women who come to this community and have difficulty sort of connecting with other women. And I have often seen, I get it in my inbox. I just got one again this week about circle leader training. And I thought, God, that would be, that could be really good. That could be really good for the commission to be involved in connecting other women around the whole county. So, I haven't really given that a lot of thought. Just listening to you guys talk about the support and growth, it just kind of triggered a couple of thoughts for me. So I thought I would just share.
Yeah, I just want to say that even the fact that this group exists, it was like huge for me I don't remember how I found it. I think I'm looking to get more involved in, like nonprofits here. So I think I saw it on a newsletter or something, maybe through United Way. But thank you for having this group, and like finding this group was huge. So maybe like, if I hadn't happened to see it on a newsletter, just getting the word out about these, I mean, I guess it goes back to the resources that could be provided to newcomers to the community. And I also wanted to say something about the faith element that was on the previous slide. I wasn't the one who requested that that topic be addressed at this conversation, but it did make me think about, as we move around, we found a Unitarian Universalist church in Malden that we were a part of. And that was huge for me as a new mom, kind of acclimating and putting roots down into that community. And with COVID, I know there's a Unitarian Universalist church here. We haven't started going to it yet because of COVID, but finding that faith community is huge to helping connect with other women too. So perhaps that's part of why that person requested that be talked about. So that, again, going back to that list of resources, like childcare, churches, affordable housing, like, I still don't know where I'm going to send my daughter to school. We're very close to a public school, but in Boston, she was at a Montessori school. So like, and I've heard, about the project school, and there are charter schools here, I think, and like some private schools. There's just a lot, coming into the community. There's a lot to learn about. So I guess it all goes back to that list of resources for me.
Thank you, Christine. Any other thoughts? I also want to say that we can talk about things that weren't included on these wheels, right? So if there's something else that you'd like to bring forward at this time, we do have about 10 more minutes for this discussion. So if there's something that we should be talking about, but we haven't talked about, I want to invite you to do that.
I just wanted to mention, I think there is something through the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce as far as, I think it's called HYPE, HYPE, which is helping young professionals excel. And I don't remember for sure if every business, if they take people that aren't connected with the chamber through a business, or if they take anybody, but I'm sure you could go as a guest. So that might be a way to reach out to them and find out when their events are. But as I remember, it's HYPE, Helping Young Professionals Excel. And that's been fairly successful in my experience. I don't know what they're doing now in lieu of COVID, but I know that it had been very successful up until then.
Nichelle, one thing I don't see that's here, not just Nichelle, everyone, that I'm curious about. I know I'm in a good position personally, but I know it was a struggle when I first got here, and I don't see a lot, or I see no category around healthcare, particularly for women. And I know it was very difficult to get a primary care physician in this town. And I, because of privilege, had access to someone who was friends with a doctor who got me into that office, right? Most people don't have that kind of privilege to be able to get that access. But just knowing how difficult it was to get a primary care physician, what is that like for women who may be childbearing years and are coming pregnant and trying to getting a care provider? And I don't know the answer to that, but I know if it's hard to get a primary care physician, I'm guessing that access to good, affordable healthcare could be an issue for women in this county.
And we know that to be true. The Bloomington Economic Development Corps and the Monroe County, the Community Foundation for Monroe County and Bloomington did release a quality of place and workforce attraction report a few years ago, and it highlights healthcare being one of the central concerns that make this place less attractive and also retain less people, less professionals. So we know that is a concern. Nichelle, thanks for bringing that up. Anyone else, anything you would like to bring forward?
And it seems that the HYPE became Young Professionals Bloomington. So they rebranded themselves in 2019. I'm just looking up. So let's see what their mission is. I'll just read it real quick here. It wasn't very long. To make Bloomington, Indiana, an attractive place for young professionals to engage in professional, personal, and civic development. That's their mission. So it's Young Professionals Bloomington.
Thank you, Liz.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Just was surprised to not see childcare on the list, and that goes kind of a lot along with childbearing years and healthcare. But just wanted to, we don't have to get into it too deep. That's a whole nother can of worms. Childcare options, it is expensive. And I'd also just wanted to bring up paid family leave. That as a commission, I think we can put pressure on Monroe County government, and the city is going to do this too. That I learned this from going to their meeting last week. They're going to put pressure on the city to give paid family leave. And if anybody knows what IU does, I assume they don't give paid family leave. So if you're pregnant and you have a baby, you do not get paid unless you have benefit time. You do not have paid family leave to take off during that time. But that's something that I think should be universal. And we could put that in make that one of our missions.
Yeah, to jump on what Jessica said, we sent the Bloomington Commission on the Status of Women sent a letter to the mayor, I think it was a year ago, and we recently found out that it somehow never got to him, and so we are reintroducing that as of last week, that we're going to do it this month. It's being pushed back towards his office because they do budgetary discussions over the summer, and so we're hoping to get in front of City Council and push that letter again. I'm happy to provide the text of that letter to the Monroe County Women's Commission if you all are interested in reading what we wrote.
And if you need any support from us in that mission, we're happy to provide it, I assume.
Good assumption.
Women supporting women.
Yes, Nicole. Actually, if you could share that text with us, that would be great, because we can also use it to encourage our leaders to have those conversations, but then echoing what Jessica just said, we are here to support, so just let us know. Okay, so we are at 1:17. It has been amazing having this conversation with you all. Thank you to the community members who have jumped on board and really been highly informative and so impactful in today's meeting. I'm going to invite you to stay on if you would like. This is a public meeting, so you're able to come every second Friday at noon. Historically, we were meeting in person. Throughout COVID, we have been meeting virtually. We are interested in keeping a virtual option, even if we do go back to meeting in person. So please check us out on the Monroe County website. We do have our own webpage for any updates and details, but I am going to invite you all to stay or go, whatever you may need, while we handle some other commissioners' business, okay? So thanks again, what a great conversation. Oh, I should also say, so we've gotten this great feedback. You're probably wondering, what are we gonna do with this? We're gonna write this all up. We're gonna put up some recommendations. We're gonna establish some partnerships, and we'll come back in about 6 months to let everyone know on a community level again, what have we accomplished? What have we put in place? But if you're interested in working on any of these projects or seeing any of this through, you do not have to be a commissioner to be a part of this commission and to serve. So we want you to keep coming back. Partner, actually a number of the commissioners that are on this call right now got involved because they partnered on projects and decided to apply to be a commissioner. So you're absolutely welcome to stay and to be a part of projects. Commissioners, we got a little bit of business to handle. I want to give a very special shout out to Rhema Payne for being an amazing minute taker. I can tell by the seriousness on her face that she has been diligent in that. But what we need to do at this moment is officially as a commission, take up a vote to install Rhema as the secretary for our commission. So I will take a motion in a second.
So moved.
I second.
Who is that who seconded?
Rhema, it's Michelle.
Oh, okay, I see, okay.
All in favor of the loading Dr. Rhema Payne being the secretary for Monroe County Women's Commission, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Rhema, welcome to the leadership team of the commission. You are officially our secretary. There was one more thing that I know I wanted to mention. Oh, I do want to say that for everyone who's a commissioner on the call, please make sure I have your most updated contact information, phone number, email, mailing address, okay? Phone number, email, mailing address. I do need that in order to keep our roster updated. And then last but certainly not least, it is Women's History Month. I know that we have about 10 minutes left of our meeting, but is there anything that anyone wanted to bring forward as far as Women's History Month, what they think we could do just to at least celebrate it and recognize it as a commission, or any thoughts that we wanted to pose about Women's History Month?
I just want to announce again that the Bloomington Commission on the Status of Women is having our Women's History Lunch and Women's Leadership Development combined virtual celebration on March 24th. It will preview at noon, and we are in partnership with 2 women-owned businesses, Feast and Two Sticks. So during the week of the event, March 22nd to 26th, you can get a free dessert at Feast with the purchase of your lunch. And at Two Sticks, you get free cookies, no purchase necessary, and both will also be giving out posters as well by Smile Promotions, who is putting together our video. So we hope that to see you all there. We have some really amazing speakers coming and some pretty cool women who have won awards with us, and we look forward to seeing you all there.
Now, for my own personal note, can you recap those perks? Did you say that Feast you get a dessert, and Two Sticks you get
a cookie? I'm not sure what the dessert at Feast is, but it's free dessert with lunch, and then Two Sticks, it's free cookies. You don't have to purchase anything. You can just walk in and say that you're celebrating Women's History Month with the Bloomington Commission on the Status of Women.
I like that. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, we can share the link for the virtual event. Nicole, would you be able to send that to us?
Yes, it will be premiering on the City of Bloomington's Facebook page.
Mm.
And I got a message from Jessica. It is coasters, not posters. Sorry if I misspoke. They're giving out coasters.
City of Bloomington Facebook page.
Yes, at noon. And if you miss it, once it's played through the first time live, you can rewatch it at any time.
Any other thoughts about Women's History Month? Okay, hopefully when we're not in a COVID year, there will be more things for us to do and consider. Okay, so commission, moving forward, we have some homework. The key things that came out of this were a list of affordable housing options, safety education and newcomer resources, links to education on allyship, a possible PSA around safety, training opportunities for how to support women, and then paid family leave letter. So I'm going to be sending out some emailed tasks, or I'm going to be sending out some tasks via email to get us kind of moving along on some of these projects. What I would love for you all to do in the last few minutes as commissioners is decide, are there priorities that we would like to pick up from this list? Are there some low-hanging fruit that we think we can get started on now and be working towards addressing by our April meeting?
Seems like the PSA might be a sort of a quicken thing that could be done more than anything based on the message. You know, did you want to make a comprehensive message or something zeroing in on a particular focus that we've been talking about, or what are we thinking of as a PSA message? You can say quite a bit in 30 seconds, you know.
The PSA would definitely be about safety. And from our conversation, it sounded like we want to talk about what men shouldn't do or could do less of to promote safety. That's where I was going with that. Go ahead, Jessica.
I steal ideas from the city commission now. That's like all I do. So the city commission is having listening sessions and they're going to present their findings to the city council and the commissioners. And I think that is a great idea. And that we should get together this great list that we have, and they would love to know what we have found out.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
When is that listening session? Was that discussed at the last meeting? Because I think I saw it.
Yes, they are going to set their dates for their listening sessions after March History Month. Okay. They're going to start working on setting those dates sometime in summer or fall.
Okay. Any other thoughts about what we should pick up and run with? First, I heard the PSA. I would say that we should tap into the paid family leave letter, especially because the Bloomington Commission on the Status of Women is really hitting home and bringing some good awareness to that right now. So this would be we will complement their efforts and tackle this on the county side. So I would say that that would be something that we should work on more quickly. Any other thoughts? Okay, well, since everyone is quiet now, I think everyone's hearts and minds should be clear. I will take, go for it, Rhema.
Did we vote on the minutes from last time? And
we didn't, because our WOCO warm-up conversation was so good. So we're gonna roll those meeting minutes to April's meeting. Yep.
All right, I'll put that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, actually, do we serve everyone here? We might as well just do the vote to approve the minutes now. There's Mim, there's Michelle. Sorry, I thought everyone had rolled off. We have 3 minutes left before our meeting.
I'll
Usually,
make a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
This is Jessica, I second.
so Liz motion. Jessica second. Thanks, Rhema. All in favor of approving the February 2021 meeting minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, minutes passed. Okay. 128, I'm gonna gift you back 2 minutes to your day. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. I hope you get out into the sun, and I will see you all in April. And again, a very special thank you to our guests that joined us on today's call. We'll see you in April.